showed up today. My oral review is on exploring the experiences of a small business enterprise's journey toward agility. I want to begin by thanking everyone who has helped get me here today. Committee members, professors, co-workers, family, and friends. I especially want to thank all the people who have participated in the boot camp, and a special thanks to Pratish and Jeremy for their support since the beginning of this project. I want to thank my family. I would not be here if it were not for my mother and my husband who supported me through the entire journey. My agenda is research introduction, key terms, motivation for research, literature inspiration, research project, qualitative interview results, quantitative instrument results, research, data and observation, and questions. Annabelle introduced the committee, and I don't see Dr. Herbert Nold, but I do want to thank the committee. You guys have all been amazing in supporting me through this journey, and I really appreciate it. This research is mixed methods using qualitative constructivist grounded theory with an original quantitative instrument that was developed and tested for use in this research. I am curious why some companies thrive while others fail in the face of change. Most of my career has been working for large organizations that acquired small businesses they integrated into their organizations through a process of assimilation. It was back during Star Trek, so we used to associate it with the Borg assimilation. The majority of the acquisitions were heading toward decline, although they had a marketable product. It was disappointing to close and move a new acquisition because when that happened, it meant the team was just not successful in getting the people to embrace change. I left the large corporate world and went to work for a small business, the one in this research project, to experience the environment from the other side. The small business for this research manufactures space-grade, radiation-tolerant electronic products for the space market, where I acted as an internal consultant for this research. There are several terms that will be discussed throughout the research. I'm going to go through a few of them. Agile refers to agile organizations. This is an important point. It's not agile like agile software or agile engineering development, but organizations that are flexible and responsive to change. Culture refers to the organization's subconscious behavior because subconscious behavior drives organizations. Emergent change refers to adaptations that produce change without intention. Experiential learning transforms activities into learning experiences. Gamification uses game elements to create a motivational learning environment. And intervention is a program designed to change how people think about themselves and others that creates a behavioral change. Mindset is the underlying belief that impacts a person's response to growth and learning. Radical change is a dramatic change that breaks through a period of stability. The organizational landscape in the space industry is changing rapidly due to the commercial manufacturers that are entering the market. Decreasing costs of launching rockets into space, increasing satellite activity, and dreams of people living in space have launched a new market that has changed drastically from the age of NASA. Investments from billionaires like Elon Musk and subsequent reductions in requirements and costs have reduced the expense and time required to get product into space. To thrive in this type of an environment, it is advantageous for small businesses to achieve organizational agility to better manage emergent change after decades under NASA's lengthy development times. Prior to the pandemic, the small business was purchased as large investment firms entered the growing space market. Everyone wanted to get a piece of the pie. The small business experienced significant radical emergent change due to the commercialization of space, new leadership, the COVID-19 pandemic, adapting to remote work, increased turnover, labor shortages, and strains on the supply chain. Experiencing the challenges the business was facing, I knew I needed to use my educational experiences to help. I created the Agile Mindset Bootcamp to teach Agile concepts to all employees to determine the impact of the intervention. An instrument was created called the Agile Culture Readiness Instrument. I call it ACRI. The goal of this research is to depict the Agile cultural climate at the small business following the intervention. The research questions are, number one, how will employees of an SBE, small business enterprise, facing emergent change describe the influence of an Agile mindset intervention and the organizational culture in an interview? Number two, how will the employees quantitatively report their view of the organization on an instrument? Having an Agile culture with an Agile mindset is beneficial for small businesses to maneuver emergent change. There is a lack of Agile organizational literature on small businesses in the manufacturing sector. A lot of Agile is out there is for engineering, software, and very large organizations. This research will be a valuable contribution as it expands and brings together additional elements of mindset to include culture and agility to bring agile organizational concepts to all aspects of organizational life for small businesses in the space market. Understanding how an intervention using experiential learning and gamification methodologies to change behavior in the organization is significant to creating organizational agility and adds to the body of literature. Organizational change dates back to Heraclitus in the 6th century BCE. Change theories have continued to develop as we attempt to define and make sense of change. The term VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, and is used to describe situations where plans for the future are not foreseeable. We are living in a VUCA world due to global conflict, viral outbreaks, technology, and climate change. Thriving in a VUCA environment requires an agile organizational culture. It is a common belief that people are resistant to change. However, some researchers believe that resistance to change is due to a person's struggle to make sense of change, and research shows that once they can make sense of it, they are more likely to embrace it. An important piece of creating a change intervention is mindset, which I would not have touched on if it were not for the management requirements at the SBE to read Carol Dweck's book on mindset. Mindset theory refers to a person's unconscious views on the nature of intelligence. A growth mindset is a belief that a person's mental attributes can be changed, making them flexible when they confront challenges. When trying to create change around a group of people in an organization, it is important to understand the organizational culture, and I'd say critical. Many researchers have defined organizational culture, and I have noticed three main themes they have in common: shared, behavior, and experiences. Organizational culture determines the success of change implementations. It plays a significant role in the functioning of an organization. The success of an organization is dependent on the engagement and well-being of its employees. Agility is the flexibility to respond to external changes with enough speed to react to new opportunities, which creates innovative solutions to meet the organization's challenges to respond to emergent change. This performance triangle was designed as an organizational diagnostic by Nold and Michelle, and that's Herbert Nold from my external expert, from research and data captured from hundreds of organizations. The three primary elements in the performance triangle model are systems, leadership, and culture. And when we talk about systems, we're talking about the entire organizational system, not just technology. Culture plays a significant role in creating an environment of shared mindset. Leadership is a critical piece due to the leader's role in creating an environment where people feel valued and collaborate freely. At the center of the performance triangle is the heart of the organization. The people bring relationships, collaboration, and purpose to complete the system, which provides agility to the organization. Agile culture was founded in the work of Nold and Michelle and Gregory and Taylor, who both created organizational matrices and diagnostics. However, the ACRI can be administered easily at the lowest levels of the organization. And I felt that that was an important tool to have in addition to measuring Agile culture. I thought it was very exciting to find two terms that were connected in existing research, Agile culture. It made it much easier to add Agile mindset to the research. Organizational culture plays a critical role in Agile performance to provide a strategic area of focus for improving agility. Creating an Agile culture is a relatively new concept and is imperative to create organizations that can manage emergent change. An Agile culture is critical to organizational success with growth, self-organization, and continuous change, signs of a healthy organizational mindset. Interventions are conducted to create a change in organizational behavior and culture. The framework for the implementation of mindset interventions, called FIMI, is a guide in developing and conducting mindset interventions. It was the closest I could find to use as a foundation for the Agile Mindset Bootcamp, which was designed to interject a change significant enough to initiate a reaction of adaptive change in the small business. Learners' needs are fulfilled when learners are motivated to achieve their goals. Research shows that employees prefer learning programs where they can exercise autonomy. In experiential learning, the participant learns by actively participating in the learning process. Games are a significant part of human history and have become key for learning, motivation, and competition. Gamification uses game elements to add extrinsic and intrinsic motivation to experiential learning to create a learning environment that can engage learners in complex ideas. Game elements should provide an atmosphere of competition and achievement, resulting in positive emotions that engage the player to keep playing and continue learning. This research explored the creation of an agile, gamified, experiential learning intervention. Research observations were captured during the AMBC and recorded after each session. Data was collected with permission from the organization, and it included evaluations and documents used during the intervention. Volunteers were interviewed to determine the impact of the intervention on the participants. The Agile Culture Readiness Instrument, the ACRI, was used to measure organizational culture readiness. The project was carried out several months in stages. The AMBC was developed and conducted, unfortunately, outside the dissertation, and design began in early 2023. The AMBC pilot was held in July 2023 with 10 people. The development of the ACRI continued through 2023 and into 2024 and is continuing development. After IRB approval, the ACRI testing began, and after the next ACRI IRB approval, the ACRI instrument and interviews began at the SBE. The AMBC intervention was held to explore whether it could create a change in organizational culture. The intervention was held weekly for 2 hours over 4 weeks with 4 major learning concepts. 54 local employees were available to volunteer for the intervention. The AMBC included people in all positions, from the assembly line to engineering. Each team had people from different departments and positions. There was at least one person from each department for a total of 12 teams. The 3 employees chose not to participate, and 3 dropped out during the program, 1 at the second week and 2 at the third week, leaving 48 to complete the program. The goal of the EPIC space-themed intervention was to find the Tablet of Awakening to encounter the ultimate warrior. The scorecards were used to track weekly avatar and team information points and reflections. A leaderboard was maintained where all teams could gauge their progress with other teams. In each session, 2 teams competed for points against each other and in the game leaderboard against all teams. The Tablet of Awakening was decoded using the reflection words in the score sheet, so it all fit together to give them some personal insight at the end of the program. So the first research question: how will employees of an SBE facing emergent change describe the influence of an agile mindset intervention and the organizational culture in an interview? Employees volunteered for the interviews through a question in the ACRI. There was a total of 15 people who volunteered for the interviews. Unfortunately, 4 people were not interviewed due to time constraints. 4 of the interview participants did not participate in the AMBC intervention, which provided a very interesting mix of participants. Qualitative data captures the participants' experience through the ambience of the data. It allowed a deeper dive into the participants' experience through a series of open-ended questions. Taking time from my busy world to listen to another person's perspective allowed me to get immersed in each story that they told. The interviews were between 15 to 90 minutes for each volunteer. The 15 minutes was quick. Step 1, read and organize. Each transcript, an example on the right, was read, and ideas, concepts, phrases, keywords, and other thoughts, including participant identifiers, were noted in the 11 transcripts. It was critical for me to avoid bias, especially as a coworker, and step back periodically. Reading the transcripts quickly helped prevent premature interpretation. The transcripts were imported into Deduce and reviewed in detail. Step 2, discover connections, begins by creating second-order codes, which are called excerpts in Deduce for qualitative analysis. Discovering the connections provides the basis for developing the codes and themes. Reading the transcripts multiple times was required to establish connections. It is an extremely time-consuming process. Summarizing recurring themes in Deduce makes it easier, though, to see emerging patterns. 198 excerpts like these ones were identified and extracted. Step 3, organizing the data into themes, is performed using Deduce, which made creating 183 codes from the 198 excerpts much simpler than doing it manually. The transcripts were reviewed multiple times to determine the meaning behind the codes to combine them into 120 sub-themes that you see here. And I used words so I could quickly code and group each of the sub-themes. Step 4, coding the data, refers to the axial coding performed by combining sub-themes into larger groups, which resulted into 18 themes. The highest theme that emerged is growth. This speaks to a high tendency of the participants towards a personal and organizational growth mindset. The second highest theme is positive, which is due to the positive image that participants portrayed of the organization. Distance is another major theme that is related to the feeling that leadership within the organization is distant and out of touch. Step 5, interpreting the data, further refers to selective coding and connecting the data to the literature. The data was connected to the 6 major constructs: autonomy, culture, mindset, teamwork, management, and agility, to create a more visible narrative. This 2-page chart, this is just a snippet of the 2-page chart, evolved over the course of the analysis. I want to point out that culture has 289 mentions. Commitment and enjoyment are positive, but messiness is not. And there are 2 different aspects to some of the themes. So when I was working with them, it took a lot of deep work to make sure that everything was categorized properly. Step 6, visualizing the data, is the final step of creating a visual picture or model to allow the readers to step inside the story. Visualization of the 18 themes provides a look at how the themes ranked based on the number of times they were mentioned during the interviews and how they relate to the 18 themes and literature categories. A final data visualization compares the themes that emerge throughout the interviews within the key concepts in the literature. The interconnectivity of the 6 key concepts demonstrates a circular process, each dependent on the other. The second research question moves into the quantitative, and it is: how will the employees quantitatively report their view of the organization on an instrument? The quantitative results will begin with the instrument design and development results, including the psychometric properties of the ACRI. My initial goal was to use an existing instrument, but I could not find one that would meet my needs. I took a survey course to write a simple survey, but could not obtain a satisfactory Cronbach's alpha score of 0.5, which led me to Malcolm North, Dr. Malcolm North, and we created a new instrument designed from existing instruments on mindset, organizational change, teamwork, organizational culture, and autonomy. New questions were developed from the existing theories and were revised over numerous sessions. The newly developed questions were refined over 2 iterations, where each question was labeled with the category keep, maybe, or no. Inter-rater reliability is an analysis performed by 2 judges who rated each of the final 98 questions proposed to be in the instrument. The initial result was 87.9, which was unacceptable for the instrument development to proceed. An in-depth review of the unacceptable questions was performed to create more precise questions with less ambiguity. The subsequent IRR results were 100% in agreement. Interclass correlation coefficient is a method of testing reliability by computing the variance of the scores with the total variance to test the instrument's reliability, and internal consistency. The ICC average measures correlation for the ACRI was 0.962, which shows good reliability for this research study. The ACRI was established for use in this study and was tested for reliability in this study. Internal consistency testing of the ACRI was limited to ensuring its reliability for this research. Following the iterator process, the 94 questions categorized as key were used to create a survey using Qualtrics. The questions were grouped into several STEM categories for a 6-point Likert agreement scale based on the groupings. It was decided to add management as an additional category. It wasn't originally in there until we started doing some analysis on the questions. LinkedIn and Survey Circle responses were collected using post-its like this one. Every day I reposted to keep the survey at the top of the list. The SPSS processing of the instrument resulted in 296 valid results with 259 usable responses. 49% were male, 46% were female, and 5% were not defined. The results show that 56% of the participants were between 18 and 35, with 28% between 36 and 55. The majority of participants, 76%, had a bachelor's degree or higher. And I think this is probably due to the sites that I used to enlist instrument participants. Another fascinating aspect is that 54 countries of origin were represented in the instrument results, with the United States at 42%, the United Kingdom at 11%, and 52 other countries making up the remaining 47%. Cronbach's Alpha is a test of reliability performed to test the internal consistency of the questions. And after my previous survey, I was pleased that the Cronbach Alpha for the ACRI is 0.962, indicating high potential for suitable factor analysis. The Kaiser-Meyer-Olkin measure of sampling adequacy is 0.87 and measures the adequacy of the samples and compares them to correlation coefficients. Bartlett's test of sphericity tests that values in the identity matrix differ from the correlation matrix, and the results is less than 0.001 significant, showing that the variables represent a reasonable method for obtaining information through the instrument. A significant measurement of the ACRI is that all 6 constructs correlate significantly at the 0.01 level in some combination. I was thrilled when I saw these results. Everything except mindset correlates significantly in at least 4 combinations. I am anxious to begin additional testing for reliability and validity to further develop the ACRI. Initial factor analysis using EFA and CFA shows significant promise. Following the AMBC, 40 participants took the ACRI, although 6 did not finish it, so their results were not included. The ACRI STAR was designed to provide organizations with a pre-diagnostic tool, and it can be used as a post-diagnostic tool as well. The ACRI STAR diagram shows how the space small business performed in the key areas being measured. Scores near 6 in an area strongly indicate agreement and that the organization is agile in that area. As the score moves below 5, there is less agreement, which may suggest additional focus is needed. The small business scores were overall positive, with nothing below 3. And this is their scores here on the screen. The small business scored the highest in agility, which was impressive after the intervention. The other 2 higher scores are in mindset and self-efficacy, which are inward scores more about the person than the organization. While nothing was below 3, the lower scores of management, teamwork, and culture should be worked on to further improve the organization. Evaluations were given to participants at the end of the program with results analyzed to determine program effectiveness. They were asked to rate the overall program on a survey. They scored the program 9.1 out of 10, which was a favorable score. A list of 3 program aspects, games, activities, and reflections, was provided, and employees were asked to check what they enjoy most. To my surprise, none of the 3 listed aspects was number 1. Teamwork was often written in and became the top choice with a 40% result. The participants learned to work together to solve challenges, which brought them together and helped them get to know one another since many employees were hired during the pandemic. So each week, I'm going to go through the boot camp. A new topic was covered each week, with the first week being mindset. Mindset week involved training on mindset activities and a final mindset game. Some key observations are initial negativity, poor cooperation with advisors. They said they just were not cool. They gave up when challenged, overall lack of participation, and people did not like weekly reflections. Week 2 was agility. Combat the negativity and failure to participate, I thought I'd try participation points. And so as long as if they failed to participate, including wearing the visors, it caused them to lose points and associated coins. It was so terrific to see how participation points changed their attitude. I concluded this was due to the negativity of losing something and hurting the team's performance. By the second week, they really wanted to win. Agility Week consisted of training on agile concepts related to agile organizations and why organizational agility is essential. Some notable observations were team performance was impressive, favorable peer evaluation exercises, there was better reflection and discussion, and cross-functional cooperation improved significantly. And after week 2, I was looking at the observations that I write, and I noticed that weeks 1 and 2 closely aligned with Tuckman's stages of group development: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. The first week closely aligned with the forming stage as they experienced discomfort, difficulty engaging, and a sense of uncertainty and apprehension. The intensity of the agility activities deepened the storming stage in week 2. Culture Week opened with a values exercise to explore their individual and team values. We created value trees for each team, and then I created an overall value tree for the organization. Since understanding organizational values require awareness and understanding of their values, a competing values exercise was conducted. It was the best participation week of the AMBC. Self-discovery, growing comfort with discussion, acceptance of one another was just amazing. And they were able to better understand how the company's values and their own values were related and how they could support the company's values when they understood them in relation to their own. Challenge Week was split into 2 sessions with both teams separated. The first session was an escape room that used all the concepts and activities the team had learned during the previous 3 weeks of activities. Each team was given an hour to solve the challenges and find the Tablet of Awakening. They worked together to solve challenges. Some employees gave up very quickly. It was kind of disappointing. But some people were so amazing. The most quiet people really stepped up and pushed their team to compete. So there was a lot of creativity and emotion. The second half of Challenge Week took place in the conference room with both teams back together. The activity was about storytelling and how humans have worked to tell their stories for thousands of years. They were to look at the company in the year of the game 2050 and describe what it would be like in a story. Each team developed and told their story. Some were grand representations of what the company would be like in 2050, while others were whimsical tales about a futuristic world. Some stories were about alien monsters, employee takeovers, and success without the management team. They were pretty interesting. So to sum up my findings, I liked the research by Russo and Ten Hag, where they outline 4 steps for creating successful change and an environment of trust. So observation, being part of this as a participant researcher and developing the gamified experiential learning as an internal consultant was an amazing experience to have as a researcher. The intervention provided the opportunity to be hands-on during the development process while also recording daily observations, obtaining feedback, and creating improvement in a live environment. It was so exciting to see people coming together to solve problems and create solutions. Quantitative evidence is a second part of the 4. The ACRI was developed and tested for reliability for this research. It was never intended to be anything more, but the results show that it has a lot more promise than what we originally thought. It emphasized areas where the organization could improve and was valuable at balancing the quantitative and the qualitative results. The qualitative evidence, volunteers were interviewed, and the resulting image is one of an organization that is highly regarded by the employees, where people are proud to come to work, even though they are struggling due to the effects of emergent change. I gathered information from stakeholders. Information was gathered from people in the organization. I was able to get a sufficient amount of information to tie the findings to challenges within the organization and areas of improvement. Consult scientific literature. Scientific literature has been the primary source of information gathered to create this research, including the AMBC intervention and the ACRI. I had several limitations, and the biggest one was time. The small business needed help quickly and could not accommodate the academic prerequisites and timelines. So the AMBC intervention development was not part of the dissertation. It's included as part of the observation, but not as the development. And there was no time to perform the intervention on another organization. The space small business chosen for the research may not be relative to other small business companies in the space manufacturing sector. And it is based on the results of one organization. The ACRI was not available to conduct a pre-test to determine the conditions of the small business prior to the intervention. I think this was one of my largest pains. I really wanted that comparison. The ACRI may not measure agile culture readiness. I understand that, and is limited due to testing with one organization, and the reliability and validity testing was not completed. And lastly, as an internal consultant, there's always the possibility that implicit bias can creep into the research. I did everything I could to try to remain open and positive. The future of this research is positive and hopeful. Further development and testing of the ACRI is something I am very excited to continue. Performing the AMBC, further developing it at other organizations, and finishing the framework for gamified experiential learning. The gamification was not planned. It was a why not try it? Because it kept coming up in research when I was studying experiential learning, and it was a huge hit. And I really loved the way it kept people motivated. The study went beyond personal growth and perseverance and became a journey of discovery. Through the AMBC intervention, we discovered passion, engagement, joy, empathy, and understanding of one another. There was a noticeable improvement in people getting to know one another and increased collaboration. The amount of knowledge, passion, and capability at the organization was extremely impressive. Every person interviewed had a level of pride and joy for the organization and their contribution to our journey into space. Even though they struggled with resource related issues, they remained proud and committed. And I love this quote because it really showed the type of environment that the organization was in. I feel like this quote by Harriet Tubman was written for my research. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach the stars, to change the world. Harriet Tubman.
Wow, Christina, wow. We can see your passion. So you're embodying Harriet Tubman for us all. Well, what a brilliant presentation. I have to say this might be in the top 10% FORs I've been part of. I mean, so cohesive, so thorough. And I can tell you practice because there's no us. There were no us in your presentation. So